Rabat Yasar. My name is Atum Hatap Rayay Atum Rayay. I'm a student teacher, the master teacher, and this is the updates for today. This is a lesson on human gases. 1. The human being, once transformed from the sea to the land, from Homo saurus to Homo simian to Homo sapien. 2. Or as they recorded in their Bible, it is from a soul being, Genesis 1 and 2, to a physical being, Genesis chapter 1, 25 to 27. And they had sexual relations, Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, by order of the soul beings. 3. These earthlings were placed on earth from above to the deep seas, and then onto land. So these new beings became ground people, Genesis chapter 2, 7 through 8. And that was in Africa, Ethiopia, Genesis chapter 2, 10 to 13. 4. This new Homo sapien lived it where he and she was placed it, Genesis chapter 2, verse 15. 5. And from these human beings, now a land dwelled an earthling, an operation was performed, Genesis chapter 2, 22 to 23. And brought forth another human being. 6. Yet this operation caused them to transform from Homo saurus, losing their outer scales and reducing their gill so that they can no longer could breathe underwater. Also reducing the female wings so that she could no longer fly in the sky above. 7. The males were ordered to surrender to the females, Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. 8. Yet now that cost them their divinity, and they were naked, meaning they lost their outer protection, which was their scales, and now they only had skin and hair like mammals. 9. They were not disappointed or ashamed, Hebrew Strong's number 954, Bush. Yet the overseers who had not yet transformed did not like the look or smell of the newly transformed human beings. 10. Their newly accepted God, the Lord, Yahweh Elohim, to whom the transformed human beings listened to, had lied to them, so they would not wish to be returned to their former state of being as gods themselves. 11. Telling them not to study the ancient wisdom of what is called the me stones or holy tablets, and continue to lie to them as they found in their Bible, Genesis chapter 3, verse 17. So this Lord or God tried to preoccupy or distract his being with sex, Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, to prevent them from studying the stones. 12. One being of the Homo saurus who protected the stones came to them. He was Zahuti or Nengishzida or Nakash. And being that he was a Homo saurus, they called him in their Bible the serpent. Hebrew Strong's number 5175, Nakash. 13. And this Nadar or overseer called Zahutwi approached the female Natatet, Nut. They called Eve or Hawa and asked her, being the leader of males as recorded, Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. 14. So Nadar, Zahutwi, the Homo saurus, serpent man, said, has this Elohim told you that you should not consume or study any and all things here where they had placed you? 15. She said, yes, that is what we were ordered. 16. And if we consume this, we will drop dead this very day. This is what was told to them as recorded in their Bible, Genesis chapter 3, verse 3. And was it true? No, it was a lie. 17. So Nadar and Zahutwi told her, that is a lie. You will not die today if you consume this, Genesis chapter 3, verse 4. 18. And explained to her, this Outformation is a living word and will or can transform you back to your divine state of being, supreme. You will be as powerful and know as much as they. This they already know and don't want you to know. Genesis chapter 3, verse 5. 19. So this female consumed and learned much from them. Genesis chapter 3, verse 6. And the Tatat Nut shared all she had learned with Sabab Geb, and they enjoyed it each other. 20. And transformed, yet now they knew of their sexual organs and how they lost their outer scales, gills, and wings. 21. So they tried to cover this new skin, and their parts became private parts. Genesis chapter 3, verse 7. 22. Then while in the place they heard Yahweh of the Elohims walking and talking the same day. Genesis chapter 3, verse 8. 23. And out of their fear they both tried to hide from them. 24. Yet Ba-Ibis Best called it out to show them off to others. Not seeing them, he called it out, "Where are you?" Genesis 3, verse 9. So Sabab Geb came out of his hiding while Natatat Nut did not. And Sabab Geb said to Ba-Ibis Best, "I heard you talking and coming and was afraid because I was transformed, so I hid myself." Genesis chapter 3, verse 10. So 25. So Ba-Ibis Best said to Sabab Geb, who told, exposed, showed it. Hebrew Strong's 5046. Nagai exposed it, showed it. Who showed it you that this was not your true form? In Genesis chapter 3, verse 11. 26. Have you consumed what I told you to stay away from? Genesis chapter 3, verse 11. 27. Sabab Geb and Natatat Nut, who you made the one I should run to or cleave to, she taught me and I learned it of it. Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. You told me to cleave to her. 28. Ba-Ibis Best then said to Natatat, "What have you done?" And Natatat Nut said, "I was seduced or beguiled, and I consumed, and I did learn." Hebrew Strong's number 5377. Nashash seduce. 29. Ba-Ibis Best, the uncle of Sahutwi, son of Patah, said to Sahutwi, "Because you did this, you'll be execrated, cursed, hatefully, as bad as execrated, removed skin from." Hebrews Strong's number 779. Odor, execrate, bitterly cursed. And Sahutwi was condemned to live in skin, and walked it on earth like all other beasts or mammals, yet above them. 30. Condemned to live by dust. Hebrew Strong's number 6083. Afar, dust, powder, of the ground, like human beings. Genesis 3, verse 14. 31. So into human form, and to have children as animals do, eat as animals do, work like animals, but most of all smell like animals. They now sweat. Genesis 3:19. And sweat is steam, perspiration. The gases of the human body as the heat of life, raised by activity or work. And this gas is of what they consume, eat, drink, or smoke. Basically anything they put inside their bodies. Even today, if they eat blood meat, the Nadar can smell it inside their bodies. 32. And once they are dead, their bodies is left to rot and decay, give off gases that attract the ghouls, ghosts, and demons, the 6 etheric beings of specters, spirits of the lower abode, and those trapped on this abode of the many who roam graveyards, tombs, seeking life. 33. 9 ether can protect you while alive and dead. For 9 knowledge, Wu-Nuwaup gives all Negroes and Napatans the proper guidance to help the sun change the gases of the atmosphere to your favor. 34. Your mind immaculate gas. 35. If your mind is full of negative thoughts, the gases are negative and will work against you in kind. 36. If your mind is filled with positive thoughts for all others and self, the gases are and will be positive for you in kind. 37. And positive gases of 9 help the 9 sun change the atmosphere and transform the being, self, and kind to the positive cycles and circles that is growing right now during the hereafter. 38. The gases of the atmosphere working on and with Wu-Nuwaup minds are what controls and rule the 6 ether beings who are being fed by negative 9 ether beings, those black devils who gave their souls to 6 ether negative forces, feeding them. 39. The ghost spirit spectrums and their demon seed in the atmosphere and in human beings will control and rule you. Negroids as Negroes to niggers, slaves of mental death. 40. Just as long as they will allow their living bodies to be buried alive in religion of other beings' temples, churches, and mosques, or graveyards of the living dead. This is why they have the same symbols on a temple as they have in their graveyards. 41. And your dead body, if it is not prepared, as was done in ancient Egypt, which is not done these days with rituals and ceremonies. 42. You bury your dead bodies to rot, and smell gives off gases in graveyards. Until you relearn the ancient rites, it is better to be cremated. 43. As I, Pa Munzal Nadar Amun Nabab Rayay Akat Patah, choose to be cremated and transform my dust into a bust of my image, as was done in ancient Egypt as the Canopy jars, before it was replaced by the 4 new images. 1. Humans. 2. Simians. 3. Canine. 4. Fowl. These replaces the original images of the ones who passed it on. This was the older and original way. It was changed into the above 4 at the end of the 18th dynasty. 44. So I wish to have this flesh used while here cremated and transformed, shaped it, and fashioned it into one Canopy jar of gold and jewels to contain my dust and bear my name as a caps or stopper of the jar. 45. And you ask why, as long as you follow the doctrine and ways of the dead world mindset and those who represent the dead in body. 46. You will continue to be held captive and used by 6 ether forces of their dead. 47. Yet 9 as a 9 Negro guide requires that you cremate your deceased kind, and this will protect them from the 6 ether forces once dead. 48. As you know, the flesh of all dead creatures, which were not prepared as it was done in our past time, become prey. 49. Know that your family members were protected as soon as you became Wu-Nuwaup, called out to Pa Nadaru, while you prayed or chanted and rejected their religions and ghost deities. 50. It comes back to gases, steam, mist, fogs, ghost, spirit, or perspiration, inspiration, perspire, inspire, as an inspire. Breathe in, infuse, thought or feeling into, arouse to create, inspiration, breath, influence to inspire, animate, put spirit or courage into, back to perspire or sweat. Genesis chapter 3, verse 19. The moisture oozing from the skin and the odors, smell, scent, odors. 51. As happened to a rotten corpse, a decomposing body, decaying flesh of the deceased, the ghosts are attracted to this odor and come to claim the dead soul for the remaining life in it. In the grief of relatives as they reflect on their loved one, they feed off the pain. 52. So we have and had rituals to block them. 53. So death and afterlife was defined forces of ancient Egypt. 54. We Egyptians, Nuwaupians, was assessed with our ritual customs and burial rites, a deep conviction to what was done to the body at death to protect the beings, multi-beings in one. 55. And the way to eternal life only possible provided the proper preparations were done. 56. Provision of sustenance for the divine being and preservation of the body by proper mummification for the 2 prerequisites for achieving immortality. 57. You have to have a perfect, goodly burial with all the proper rites and rituals, done at the right and exact times with heaven alignments. 58. This ensured that the eternal aspects of mortality. 1. Ba, soul. 2. Ka, spirit. 3. Ak, etheric. 4. Dazala, shadow. Must all be properly nurtured. 59. If these can't be properly prepared, then it's best to cremate the body to release these four and they take their place. 60. With that transformation into one force, or they will be trapped and lived as the undead as a continuation of earthly existence. Yet without the flesh, it becomes lost soul or ghost. 61. Never make it to the field of reed, where the deceased will be surrounded by abundance and be freed of the more unpleasant aspects of this daily life with which their desires have been made them attacked it. 62. So the rites were very important up to the dead. 63. As previously stated, your flesh is all you eat and drink and smoke, or the drugs you put inside your body. All the physical things you exchange become a part of you and your life while you live and once you are dead. 64. So the body's not prepared properly ferments death gases. They permeate the atmosphere and strengthens and multiply ghouls, ghosts, and the demon seed. They feed on bad odor, body odor while alive and after death, as they do funk, rot, filth, or any kind of bad smell, body gas, bad breath. Note, when one is afraid, they perspire, and when one is depressed, they perspire. These are called your drops in emotions. As the records in their Bible, Genesis chapter 4, 5 through 7, called panim, face, Hebrew Strong's number 6440, looking sad, emotional, give access to lower forces called the sin, Hebrew Strong's number 2403. Ketal, sacrifice offerings. That is, you offer yourself to 6 ether forces when you're mad, sad, hating, arguing, fighting. You perspire and it attracts lower forces to take your soul and control your body while alive, and your soul when amongst the dead. 65. You will be transformed if they can use you into a demon to be used against your own race. 66. A demon, black devil in general, some not even knowing their beings, used against their own race. They feel how they feel is right for them. 67. Yet what is right for them may not be right for our race. 68. So in turn, these beings of death exist by preying on the living who open up to them, allowing them to success on their blood, and by causing oppression, suppression, repression, disease, murder, insanity, sexual perversion, deformities, all from emotions out of control. 69. And all of these activities are active negative forces of unnatural nature called conscious death gas. 70. Who causes suffering and sickness, disease, and even death through mankind, pa kakasu, the evil race, so that those negative forces may survive. 71. Burying an improperly prepared body of the dead, not cremating it increases the power of the dead negative forces of unnatural nature to prey on the living forces of natural nature and causes the physical living to suffer, shed each other's blood, hate self and kind. These are their tools. 72. You use on self and kind. 1. Hate. 2. Envy. 3. Jealousy. 4. Distrust. 5. Gossip. 6. Slander. These forces are often used but never admitted to. 73. So cremating the unprepared, properly body of the dead Negroid help lessens and destroy negative forces and break the spell of their control over Negroid's soul. 74. So that you may live longer and in greater ease. 75. So a dead body should be cremated until you relearn all the ancient rituals, cremated as soon as its identity is established and those concerned have had a chance to view it. If that is their wish in most, it would be better not to view a dead corpse but remember them alive. 76. Yet some families prefer to confirm it is who is plainly dead. That is their choice. 77. Yet it's best to remember the ones live one alive in the mind's eye is alive forever. 78. A body should never be allowed to reach a point of odorous decay. 79. It should be cremated immediately, and if it must be buried the cremated remains at the root of an evergreen tree. 80. If kept in a jar or a container or urn, that is well. Some ask for the ashes to be cast at sea or thrown in the air, and others made into a statue, a bust of themselves, as long as they are kept safe from evil forces and on their goals in human form, negroid or caucasoid. 81. As long as it is a suitable place, willed by the deceased, or if they're not determined by their relatives, but the deceased may have asked his last wish that they should be respected or they will not rest in peace. 82. Remember, what seems to be best for you to do as an individual may not be best for your whole race. But what you do that is best for the Negro race as a whole race. But you do that is best for the Negro race as a whole is always best for you and your immediate family. 83. It's the most intelligent thing to do for survival and well-being. Be careful of your own inner voices speaking to you about others of your race badly. 84. Make you always see the worst in others. Ask yourself, how did I recognize all the bad things about others is somewhere down inside of my own gene that is not there? 85. What bad you will for in others is coming from inside you? 86. Or is it your weakness, fear, and it breeds hate, jealousy, envy, distrust, gossip, slander, all voices inside you? 87. Trying to destroy you inside out. Soon your own will reject you, turn on you, mistrust you because of inner voices. 88. Your conscience is felt because you can't have it your way and you become possessed by forces you can't control. And that's it for the reading. Yes.
There was something said about sprinkling ash. Is that something that we as the Nuwaubians could do?
Yes. What happened is the master teacher said that according to this reading, because of how we live our life and how they bury us, you'll still give off the odor that attract these disagreeable beings. So he said, because we don't practice the ceremonies and rituals no more, he said it's best for you to cremate your body. He said, but you also have the option if you want to do it. You know, some people say, well, let me just throw it in the ocean or let me just put it in the air. But he says he preferred to do it the way the ancient ones would do it, is you take the ashes and you mix it in with some type of clay or ceramic or plaster or something, and you make a statue from it. So that means that you still live on as of, you know, your remains in that statue itself. So he says a statue of yourself, like someone carves a statue of you, then they put the ashes in with the powder, and then when they cast it, it's you, a likeness of you, but it also has your essence because the ashes of your physical composition is a part of that statue. You get that? Any questions? Any questions pertaining to these readings? The floor is open also. I remember the master teacher said in the 90s when he talked about death, he was saying that when you see a person dead, that's the last image that you see of that person. This is why the ancient Egyptians, you know what I'm saying, will always make a what you call it, a neb-ankh or a sarcophagus to look exactly like that person. So the body was wrapped and embalmed inside of the sarcophagus, and people will view the actual sarcophagus and see the image as opposed to actually seeing them dead. And this, in your mind, you still see this person as being alive, and that's what 75 was talking about. And thank you for coming out. Yeah, go ahead, Mac. Okay, and thank you for coming out. We'll be here next week. Tawahat. Wadu.